Welcome to our posts. Today we will see stories of r/entitled parents.
My friend's mom pushed me into a table saw. This happened 8 months ago. My friend, Kylon, and I work in a woodworking company. It's a pretty great job for me, as I love hands-on activity and creating things. Kylon, however, has more of a difficult time with it all. Which is completely fine as I help him with it. His mom and my mom aren't necessarily close, but both support me and him in our work. We're pretty young, so it helps with reassurance. But a few days before this incident, I started to realize that Kylon's mom never really acknowledged my work. Now that's not really a big deal to me as I don't require praise, but I do find it a bit weird as Kai's mom has apparently had a few racial incidents at her own work and I'm African. I was just assuming it's because she's afraid. I'm a pretty built guy and 6 feet 6 inches. Fast forward to Tuesday, and I'm working on a wooden chair that has taken me a few more attempts than wanted. The table saw I had been using to make clean cuts was pretty rusty from Kai using it constantly. I headed out to the department to get a replacement and was a bit annoyed with Kai not doing it himself. I came back and said, "Hey man, don't be afraid to change your equipment." And he rolled his eyes and just replied with a K. Which just annoyed me even more. I just pushed past it and continued. But minutes later, I heard Kai laughing and I looked up to find him laughing at my cutting. This made me extremely upset as I've been working almost day and night while he only works 7 to 9 hours. This along with his mom recently coming into shop and laughing along with him. This got to me and I walked over to Kai and told him a few words that I shouldn't have. He immediately got defensive and pushed me back and I was about to strike back when his mom instantly joined in with him and intentionally pushed me to the left where the saw was. Stupidly, I left it on. As soon as I was pushed back, the back of my hand was shoved right into the saw, causing a drizzle of blood to just gush everywhere and for my palm to be basically split in half with a huge gap between my pinky and ring finger. The shock kicked in and I instantly grabbed my hand and shouted for my mom, who was on the other side of the shop. She immediately got an ambulance and I was sent to the closest hospital. Kai has been texting me almost every day apologizing for his mother. The only text from her was her saying that this was my fault and to not hurt her son. Next story. Mom wanted to live off my income once I graduated. Growing up, my mom had told me she was raising me to be the best child, because she knew I would achieve more. My mom was way harsher on my grades, sports, academic clubs, looks, and personal life than my little brother. I admit I grew up hating my little brother for all the freedom he had, while I was always isolated. I was always grounded. I was working multiple jobs to not only save up for college but help with the family bills. When my brother got a job, he was able to spend the money on what he wanted. My mom told me what my career goal was, what person I should marry, how she will move in with me after I buy my house to raise the children and take care of her. My mom was the type to blow money on designer stuff while we slept in hotels and cars at one point. I hated being poor. All I wanted was a house growing up. A nice house for us. If I dated someone my mom didn't approve, she would do everything to sabotage the relationship, because they were not good enough for me. Welp, I went to law school and was getting my JD when I meet my now current boyfriend. You know, they say when you know you know. Gosh, did we know right away. Moved me in after 3 days and have not been away from each other since. I love his family and they also love me. He was raised upper middle class and had an amazing set of parents. He was also top of the law school and just felt too perfect for me. My mom disagreed. She didn't like him one bit, because anytime she said something to make herself look smart, he called her out and said, "Nope, you're wrong." Provided facts and even showed her sources. Oh, she hates to be proven wrong. I told my boyfriend how my mother raised me and what she expects from me growing up. Well, he wasn't going to have it. He said she would be even lucky to know her grandchildren. My mom started to see her plans unraveling with my new boyfriend and tried to break us up multiple times. When she started to make fun of his parents, he drew the line. He called her out and said we were done with her. The panic was real for my mom in this moment. I was her ticket meal. She demanded that I made a choice, my own mother or a man I was only dating for a year. I chose my boyfriend. We have been together for almost 3 years. I dropped from law school and work remotely at an amazing job. He graduated top of his class and was hired immediately. Our income is way above what I expected, and sometimes cry at night for how blessed I feel. Growing up, I always begged to have a home I could call my own. Now we may have a home together in a few years. She will send threats and make up excuses to try to contact me in order to get back in my life. We plan to get married soon and know we have to keep it really quiet, because she will either call in a threat or try to show up. Next story. Mother changed the locks while I was out, tries to marry me off the next day. I'm 20 female. I went out on a Friday for a few hours with some friends. Just some shopping and catching up. I haven't seen some of them for the last 2 years due to COVID, when we used to hang out almost every week. And I am leaving the country in a few weeks, so we took this opportunity to as a catch-up and farewell party. I was out from late afternoon to about 9/10 p.m. when I got home. I took out my keys to unlock the gate, but it won't fit. I tried to turn the key around, yes, like a USB, thinking it might fit the other way, but still could not fit. I called my mother, she didn't pick up. Called my grandmother, who lives with me, but she was out with her friends as well and won't be home anytime soon. At this point, I was pissed. My mother already burnt a couple of my work pants the day before cause I refused to wear a dress for work. My line of work requires me to move around a lot, so a dress or office skirt was not suited for my environment. I shook the gate, but no one was home. So I picked the lock. I opened the metal gate after a few tries. Luckily the wooden door behind it was not locked. The neighbors did call the police, and of course I had to show them I actually lived there and was my legal address. I took some essentials and went to stay at my friend's house for the night because I couldn't lock the door back and I didn't feel safe in the house without a locked door. The next day my grandmother and I were invited to go to a pre-wedding event. It was kind of a meeting the elders and engaging party/ceremony at a cafe. My mother only sent me this address and time for it. It was perfectly normal for my grandmother to be invited to these things via my mother. My grandmother doesn't know how to use a phone other than basic functions like calling. We showed up on time to the cafe and were escorted to a booth-type seat at the corner of the cafe. The booth already had a lady, mid-40s to 50s, and a guy. I assumed she was the mother and the guy was her son. The moment we sat down, the lady took out a calendar and notepads filled with list of flower arrangements, color schemes, menus, dresses, hairstyles, and etc. She introduced her son, who is 28 by the way, told me what he does for a living, what he studies and where. She thanked me, agreeing to marry him. I looked at her, then to her son, then to the wedding planners and notes. Then did it finally register, then this was for my wedding. My grandmother was pissed to say the least. I apologized to the lady and said there must be some kind of misunderstanding between us because I came to attend someone's engagement party, not plan my own. And added I was only 20 this year. My grandmother then rudely asked why she thought I would be marrying her son. The lady replied her mother contacted me and said her daughter was looking for a partner and husband to settle down so she, me, could move out. My grandmother calmly said to the lady that she has been lied to and I was not going to be getting married anytime soon. She said her son seems nice and hopes he finds someone who likes him to marry in the future, but it was not going to be me. We got up and left. When we got home, I found New York things stuffed in a black plastic bag beside the door. My grandmother opened the door and told me to bring my stuff in. The moment I stepped through the door, my mother yelled that she put so much effort into finding a guy who would take a girl like me to marry, and that Jay should be grateful she didn't just marry me off to an older dude, and I should be happy she found someone my age. She told me I embarrassed her because the mother called her and told her what she did was not okay and to not do it again without even asking or informing me properly. My grandmother started to shout at my mother in Cantonese, which resulted in them being in a heated argument for almost 30 minutes, and my grandmother kicked out my mother. Which of course she moaned about and cried about before leaving. Next story. Mom tried to invite herself on my trip, told me I'm not allowed to move away. I won a trip to NYC through my work for hitting some high metrics, and I called my mom to tell her. I was feeling proud of myself and thought she would be proud, too. Here's a quick rundown of the conversation. Immediately asking if she could come with me and getting angry when I told her no because that it probably wouldn't be best for a woman in her 60s who was fresh off back surgery to go limping around NYC. Demanding that I bring her a sandwich from Katz's. Sure, Mom. I'll buy a sandwich, travel to the airport with the sandwich, fly 2 hours home with the sandwich, and then drive an hour to your place to deliver the sandwich to you. What is she thinking? Asking if I'd move to NYC if the raise was significant enough, then getting angry when I said yes. You can't. It's too far. How do you expect me to drive there? I'm not expecting you to do shit. It's not about you? What the hell, lady? I can't even celebrate doing well at work without this woman draining the life out of me, and then she gets pissy when I don't want to spend time with her. God give me strength.